Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is James from UrbanJungleMSP, and I'm really excited today because this is a video I've been waiting to film for a while. I've been rooting some of my Hoya Mathilda and Hoya serpens cuttings that I received a little over a month ago, and they are ready to be repotted. I have procrastinated a little bit because I ran out of potting soil, and I finally picked some up this weekend, and I also have something that's pretty exciting, so stay tuned, and we're going to repot some Hoyas, and I'm going to show you one of my wish list plants that I found. Okay, so first of all, this past weekend I was in Madison, which is my hometown, so shout out to any Badgers out there. I went to one of my favorite nurseries back home called the Bruce Company, and I was in shock. I ended up finding a couple of really cool things. Number one being a Royal Hawaiian Purple Hoya pubicalyx. And now I'm almost positive that this is Royal Hawaiian Purple. Here she is. So this hanging basket I found, and I was just walking through some of their aisles. I was like, Hoya pubicalyx, okay, fine. But then I got a closer look and I looked at these leaves and you can see how dark this new foliage is, and it's purple. Like, it's dark reddish purple. My friend Patsy, who is another Hoya lover that I know through Facebook, sent me a couple cuttings of Royal Hawaiian Purple Hoya pubicalyx, which she said was an heirloom variety, and it looks very similar to this. It has really dark petioles and really dark veining through the stems, and I'm not 100%, but I'm like 98% positive that this is either super similar. It's either Royal Hawaiian Purple or Hoya pubicalyx red buttons, and I'm like super pumped to see how this does. Now, I know it's winter, so I probably won't be seeing a whole lot of new growth throughout the next couple of months, but from everything that I've heard from people is that Hoya pubicalyx are some of the easiest Hoyas, and I can attest to that. I have a couple, but I'm a little bit newer to that variety of Hoya, so I'm really excited to see what this does. The main event for this video are my Hoya Mathilda and Hoya serpens cuttings. Now, I have been rooting some of these cuttings for a little over a month, and they are just taking off. Like, they're seriously enveloping all of this bark. You can literally see the roots are just attached. They're just attached to all this, so I'm going to get it in a pot so that come spring, this will grow out to be just a beautiful plant. So this larger leaf, relatively speaking, larger to the Hoya serpens is Hoya Mathilda, which is a cross between Hoya carnosa and Hoya serpens. And so far, I found Hoya Mathilda to be super easy. Like, seriously, just like Hoya carnosa, super steady, doesn't need a whole lot of care, and has just been producing a lot of new growth for me. These Hoya serpens cuttings have a little bit shorter roots just because they haven't been in here as long, but as you can see, like, clinging out of this like a ball here, so they're ready. And I'm gonna pot them up, and that's what I'm gonna do today. Okay, so I want to show you the potting mix that I use for all of my Hoyas. Now remember that Hoyas are epiphytes, so they're growing on other trees and other plants in the wild. So they like a really well-draining mix because once it rains wherever they are, the water just kind of runs right off, and they maintain a moist environment and they like humidity, but they don't like to be wet. So whatever media you pot in, you just want to make sure that it doesn't hold too much moisture. So the mix that I use is heavy on orchid bark. Orchid bark retains enough moisture, but not enough that it rots the roots. Try saying that 5 times fast. I can't even say that. Rots the roots, 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 rots the roots. Nope. Anyway, so the brand that I really like to use is this special orchid potting mix by Better Grow. It has really nice chunky bark, and then also has charcoal and perlite. So it's a really light mix. It's really great because it doesn't get like stale, and that charcoal keeps the mix really nice and crisp. It doesn't like get all moldy and nasty. This is primarily for Phalaenopsis and other like different types of orchids, but they're epiphytes as well. So they're growing in really similar conditions that Hoyas are. So I use primarily this orchid bark as my base. And then a lot of people talk about leca. Now, hot tip, you can actually get leca from IKEA. And I live in the Twin Cities, and there's an IKEA right down the road from me. So I got this bag, I think for like $6 or $7. It's really affordable. And there it's labeled ODLA. But what leca is light expanded clay aggregate. Basically all that leca is are these little clay balls that retain moisture, and you'll see that when I'm repotting, the roots just stick to it because it's just the perfect media. I mix this right into the soil and it helps retain moisture without keeping it too damp. So that's leca. And I picked up some black gold cactus mix. This is what I'm going to use as the potting mix for my plants. I was looking for something that wasn't too peaty. I got this at the Bruce Company in Madison, and we're gonna see. It's for cacti, succulents, and desert plants, but it's more of a barky mix, so we're gonna see how this does. I think it'll go well. So anyway, I think there's a hole in it also, because it just got dirt on me. I'm going to mix up the mix for these Hoyas, the potting mix, and we're gonna get started. So, like I said, the first thing that I like to use the most of is this orchid bark. So I'm just gonna pour some of this in here, and I don't need to make too much. This will probably be a little bit of overkill. And I don't have a measurement either. I just kind of like eyeball it. So I mixed in some orchid bark there. And if you want to, you can kind of break these chunks up because they can get pretty large. So they snap in half pretty easily. You can break these up a little bit. For our purposes, it's going to be fine. They'll grow just the same in smaller chunks of bark as larger. And I'm going to add a little bit of this leca. I got clay balls going everywhere. And then I need to open this bag, even though there's a hole in it. It's not big enough. All right, we'll get a look in here. You can see here that this is a pretty perlite-y mix, so it is pretty light, which is obviously great for cacti and succulents, but I think this is gonna do really well for my Hoyas too. So I'm just gonna kind of like mix this together, and this is looking like a really good mix. It's really light, it has enough potting soil. I might actually add a little bit more of this potting soil in just so that there's enough moisture retention, since it's pretty heavy on perlite. So I'm gonna add this in, and this is looking really good. This is what I like to see. So it's nice and barky, it has leca in here. Just kind of mix this all together. Now for this repotting, I'm going to use some of these just plastic nursery pots. I ordered a set of 50 of these on Amazon for like $8 or $10. They're super affordable. And what I like to do is actually put a little paper towel in the bottom because they have pretty large holes and I just don't want a bunch of media to escape. So I'm actually gonna put some paper towel in the bottom to trap some of the moisture and things from leaving the pot when you water. Okay, so I have my paper towel. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of this in the bottom of one of these pots to start, just so that it traps, like I said, some of that media that goes through if you have the holes. And then I'm just gonna put a little bit of our potting mix in the bottom before we pot our Hoyas into here. So when repotting these Hoyas, I am actually gonna lay them primarily on the top so that the roots go down into the soil. These Hoya Mathilda cuttings have just been insane. So like this one, there's enough stem that I could just like pot this down in. So I might take out a little bit of this media to pot this into here. Here's just one cutting. I'm gonna do a few of these in this pot. So I've had these rooting in this to-go container for quite a while. I talked about it in my Hoya propagation video a couple of weeks ago, and these are just really rooted in here. Now you want to be careful with these roots because they are pretty delicate. Oh my gosh, this is just insane. So it's just all kind of rooted together. Can you see this? Like, I just pulled up a clump. This is how they grow in the wild. They're just all stuck to whatever they can cling to, basically. So I don't want to harm this, but I'm going to pull these gently apart. So like you can see, I'm just going to put this all in because it's in leca right now. So I'm just going to pop this down into here. And then I'm going to lay this along the top so that some of these upper roots are exposed to the media. You can see that this is a big long cutting. I'm just going to cut this one part right here in half and then lay the other half in. We're gonna have a nice full pot of Hoya Mathilda. So I'm gonna lay this under here. Beautiful. And then I'm going to put this in here too. And I think that's all that's really going to fit in this pot. So I'm going to backfill some of this just so that there's potting media on top, and then the roots will start going down. It's just like their natural progression. They're going to go down and around, and we might have some roots coming up and out. We'll have some going down. It's just, they're going to be a happy family in here. So I'm just going to backfill with some of this soil here. And then basically what you want to do is just kind of tamp it down so that some of that soil gets out or in around those roots. Okay, so I think this pot is done. Just tamp, 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 tamp. And look, I'm going to water this in, and then we'll go on to the next one. So this big old mass is literally one cutting, except for some Hoya serpens that's hanging out down here. This propagation method, either the Ziploc bag method or like using a takeout container, is the way to go. All I did was put some like leca and orchid bark in there, and then I just kept it moist, and everything rooted super easily. So that's the freaking way to go. Can you tell I'm a little anxious today? Let's just talk about something really quick. So a lot of people use plants to work on their mental health, and I got in yesterday around 5:30, and then I made dinner and like just had a bunch of things to do around the apartment, and I don't think I ever like unwound because I didn't go to bed, or I didn't fall asleep until like 1:30 in the morning. And today I'm just like all over the place, and now I'm, after drinking like 4 cups of coffee, just kind of wired and feeling really anxious. Make sure you take some time to just like breathe in a day, because this is a little stressful. Not talking to plant people, but just life sometimes can get a little stressful. So what I'm gonna do, take a little bit more of this paper towel to put in the bottom of this pot here. And just like before, I'm just gonna backfill. I'm gonna have to make some more soil mix when I pot up this Hoya serpens. And then I'm just gonna stick these little guys, like there is literally not an art or a science to this. Just stick them in so that these roots are exposed to this media. I'm so astonished by how this works. This is just like crazy to me. I think I'm actually just going to cut this in half, and then it'll produce more growth points. There we go. Some of you probably just screamed by me doing that. Okay, I'm going to backfill. Tamp, tamp, tamp. I'm just going to get some of these chunkier bark pieces up under the plant, because I don't want these I don't want these leaves to rot. There we go. Okay, so we're in good shape. Second one potted up here. Oh, just lovely. So that's really good. So we have the 2 Hoya Matilda cuttings. And then, so these Hoya serpens are much smaller, so I'm trying to decide how I should do this. You know what I wish? I wish there were more wide, shallow pots, because a lot of the things that I have potted up, like, have a really shallow root structure. Like, I have this pot of Hoya Chelsea in this really shallow pot that I literally found on the side of the road in St. Paul, and it's perfect, because they have such a shallow root system anyway. Like, the roots are popping out of the bottom of this guy. Does anybody have a lead on more of these? Because I really want more of these shallow terracotta pots. I don't know what to search. I have these 2 little, I have this little terracotta pot that I was using to backfill, and then I have this cute little glazed pot. So maybe I'll just like split the cuttings up and like take a risk. Well, actually it's less of a risk, because if one fails and one does well, it's better than like putting them all in one pot and then they all fail. So like, we're just dividing our odds here. So I'm going to put some of this medium into this little guy. And a lot of people are on the fence about using terracotta for Hoyas because their roots stick to whatever is providing moisture. So sometimes the roots stick to the outside or the inside of the terracotta pot. If that's your worry, what I would say is if you are about to repot, like let it dry out so that the roots aren't like sticking so much to the outside because they're like trying to gain moisture, and then try to like gently take it out of the pot. I don't know, just something to think about. So I'm gonna pot these like right on the top of the soil in here and then backfill a little bit. These Hoya serpens cuttings are just like so freaking adorable and like so teeny, like they're so small. Okay, so that's on there. And they got these little teeny baby root systems. This one's sticking to leca. Okay, so with these, I'm just like gently doing this in here. With these Hoya serpens cuttings, I'm definitely going to be keeping these ones in the plastic bag propagation method while they're potted into their like grow pot, just so that they establish really well in here, and then hopefully that goes well. So, oh my god, look at these little guys. Okay, next, I'm just going to put some of that in here. Just going to kind of lay these on top of the soil. So I got another pot because I'm going to divide these into 3 little pots. And then I'll just keep them next to each other. Put a couple of these cuttings down in here. Okay, so I'm going to go water these in really quick and then I will be right back. Okay, so I watered these guys in. So here I have my 2 little pots of Hoya Mathilda. Oh, they're so good. They're like, I just watered these in because they're dripping. But anyway, so these are super hardy. Like seriously, I would highly recommend these. I've talked about these in my Easy Hoya video. I'm not kidding. Like the carnosa characteristics in these are insane. They rooted super fast. I've never had like a failed cutting off of these guys. So highly recommend Hoya Mathilda. And then people say Hoya serpens is kind of finicky. I don't have as much experience because these are my first cuttings of Hoya serpens, so we'll see how it goes. But I just like couldn't resist these cute little teeny baby leaves. So what I'm gonna do with these little pots of the Hoya serpens is put them in a larger Ziploc bag, and then I will kind of keep them in that like high humidity greenhouse environment for a little while until the roots start to establish into this potting medium. And yeah, here's my other one. So I got like 3 little baby pots of this out of it. So we'll see. I'll keep you all updated on these little Hoya serpens. I hope that you got a little something out of this repotting. If you take anything away from this video though, what I want you to remember is that Hoyas are epiphytes. They like well-draining soil, particularly barky, and also mixed with like leca and some regular potting soil so that there's enough moisture retention, but you also don't want them to stay too moist. So give them just a really nice, airy, barky, perlite-y, gorgeous mix, and they'll be really happy for you. Don't pot it into something that's like heavily peat-based, that doesn't have any like aggregate to make it more loose, if you will. And yeah, make sure your Hoyas are in a brightly lit area without a ton of direct sun. They like that bright indirect light that everybody talks about. And if you just like, honestly, after they're established, just kind of neglect them, don't water them until they're super dry, they'll be really happy for you. The main thing is just making sure that that soil is nice and light and that you give them enough sunlight and they'll be really good. So if you are interested, I highly recommend going over to Instagram at UrbanJungleMSP to check out my content over there. Otherwise, give this video a like and a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and I will be back really soon with more houseplant related videos.